I'm going to introduce the final lesson for positive and negative space. I recently came across a photographer who uses a technique to capture positive and negative space within his photography. Photographer Damien Blottière takes a less traditional approach towards fashion photography with his works that combine collage to create a unique look. Damien Blottière is much more than a photographer. He has a unique style by combining multiple portrait images to create a work of art. He transforms the human body through a cut and paste process into an extraordinary and creative way to represent positive and negative space, as well as shape, movement, and line. Let's take a quick look at a more interactive viewpoint. Since we have a basic understanding of what positive and negative space entails from our previous lesson, we were able to capture the positive space within the designs and patterns and carved away at the negative space on our cardboard surfaces. So now let's take this a step further into a more collaborative work of art. We will start with 3 basic images found within a magazine. Choose people and choose ones that have no distracting elements such as text on them. Choose one as your focal point. This one should be particularly larger than the others and/or a close-up portrait. For the other images, try to choose ones with different poses and/or camera angles in order to create a variety. Your next step will be to create a composition of negative space areas within each image. Work with one at a time and see how they can play off of one another. This step will take very careful planning in order to be successful. Let's look at how I got to the final results of my example. The first step is cutting out your focal point image and looking for shapes that create the contour of the face, the neck, and the body. I recommend doing this with a pencil first versus using marker or pen just in case you need to erase. Notice that my shapes follow the contour and aren't completely random. This creates a nice fluid motion and provides accurate movement within each portrait. Once you are satisfied with your design, begin carefully cutting it out with an X-Acto blade. Please keep in mind that magazine paper is very flimsy and can tear easily. Careful concentration is crucial during this part. Your second step is to cut out your second portrait. Take your time and plan to see if you can create any connections with your focal point image. Notice how I incorporated the woman's arm towards the man's head as if she is leaning up against him. Once you've established this, go in and repeat the same steps for finding common shapes, drawing them in with pencil, and cutting them out. Your final image will be used in the background underneath your first 2 portraits. There will be very little cutting of this image, if any at all. Once again, look for connections. Lastly, we need to make our compositions our own. Art should be used as inspiration and not a means to copy. With that said, we need to add our own twist and give our piece a voice that represents us individually. Before gluing your composition down on the final paper, think about what you would like to add. Will you create another portrait drawn by yourself as shown here? Will you go in and draw shapes, designs, or patterns within the background? Or possibly add text that you have cut out of magazines? Once again, carefully plan in order to get a successful and equally inspiring piece.